Hey guys and dolls, today I'm going to be sharing with you my review, thoughts, feelings, comments, and concerns about the Lorac Pro 2 palette. Officially it's called the Lorac Pro Eyeshadow Palette 2. So as you guys know, I've said this before, and I feel like the more I say it, it makes it a bigger deal than it really is, but I'm not generally a fan of the Lorac Pro Original palette. This isn't the worst palette in the world, and I feel like because I've had to state that I dislike it a few times, people have it in their minds that like I hate this palette. Overall, I just felt like they were not up to the Lorac standards because I have the Lorac Unzipped palette, which I think is phenomenal. And I bought this around the same time as I bought the Unzipped palette. Let me go ahead and share with you guys the Unzipped palette as well. So this is the Unzipped palette, which I think is phenomenal. And so when I was using this one, I just didn't do it for me, and I overall felt like some of the shimmery eyeshadows were kind of thin in texture and not in a good way. They were just kind of like powdery, and I felt like the mattes in this palette were overall kind of chalky. Some of them were fine, but overall it just didn't tickle my pickle. So when I saw that the Lorac Pro 2 was going to be launched, I was a little like, I don't really know, because I was kind of like 50-50. I was like, this one was amazing, this one I didn't care for so much, so what am I going to do? And I decided to just go ahead and take a risk, and I'm so glad that I did. This is the Lorac Pro 2 palette. It comes in a lightweight cardboard packaging, sort of like a gray rubberized finish. You have a mirror on the inside. Then you get to the good stuff. Inside the palette you have 8 eyeshadows that are matte on the top row, 8 eyeshadows that are shimmery on the bottom row. And one thing that just really drew me to this is I felt like the matte shades were the right colors to have be the matte shades, and the shimmery colors were the right ones to have be shimmery. Like sometimes a company comes out with like a mixed texture palette and you're like, oh, it's too bad that's the shimmery color or whatever, you know. And the other thing that really drew me to this is initially, like the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, I bet that color would be pretty to do this with, and that color would be pretty to do that with. So initially kind of got my creative juices flowing, it kind of got me excited. I was coming up with looks in my head of what I could do. And that to me is a really important thing, is that you need to look at a palette and get inspired. You can't look at it and just, you know, sometimes the layouts of palettes are kind of ugly or whatever. They're just not conducive to the creative process. The other thing I love about this palette, it has a good mix of cools and warm colors. I feel like it might be a little bit on the cool side, but it does have some warm colors that really can liven it up and bring it in that warm arena. And even some of the ones that look cool, like Chrome here, this is a very brown based taupey gray, so it, you know, I'd say it's pretty neutral really. The textures of these eyeshadows are phenomenal. Buttery, 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 pigmented, smooth, lovely. Mwah, love, love, love. The other thing that is really important to me is this a palette that I can use on its own? Do I have to pack something else? Like if I'm going away on a trip, am I going to have to pack something else to go with it? And with this palette, I really don't have to. And that's really uncommon because I'm pretty picky. But there's colors in here that are great as midtones. There's cool tone eyeshadow looks I can do. There's warm tone eyeshadow looks I can do. I have used this palette almost exclusively since I got it. And the final thing that I really like in a palette is it to be permanent, because I hate when something is limited edition and I feel kind of rushed to make a video about it, or you guys aren't able to get it. So this kind of makes me feel a little more relaxed. I can, you know, I just like things that are permanent, don't you? Alright, so let's go ahead and break down all the colors in this palette. The first one is Buff, which is a very yellow matte cream, and it works great as a highlight shade. Light Brown is a really great light brown. Matte light brown, there you go. It's very similar to Buck from Urban Decay, so if you really like that color as like a mid-tone transitioning color, you'll love this as well. Cool Gray is almost like a mauve tone matte gray, but when you blend it on, it becomes more of like a brown gray. It's really, really wonderful, and it goes amazingly with Chrome, just so you know. Nectar is probably my favorite eyeshadow in the whole palette. It's like really the mid-tone transitioning warm color is your favorite. Yeah, it is. So I just love colors like this because they're the most flattering for me personally for a mid-tone crease type color, and this is the best one I've found. Pigmentation spot on. It has a little bit of a pink tone to it, sort of like a terracotta pink. Perfection. I really, really hope they sell this in a individual, or they have like a refill for it or something, because I love this color and I can see that I'm gonna hit pan on it first for sure. Plum is a really rich plum shade, not too surprising, but it's kind of muted compared to like MAC's Fig 1. Fig 1 would be a little darker or a little more intense, but I actually prefer this color because Fig 1 sometimes is a little too dark. Navy. Navy's intense, you guys. Navy is super, super intense. In fact, we'll do a live swatch of Navy. Like, I barely touched it. Let's go ahead and just Can we discuss this? This is insane. This is insane. This is just... It's crazy. And I'm wearing navy today. Charcoal is a matte gray, and I love, love, love this because this exact type of shade of a matte gray is kind of not that common, and it's wonderfully pigmented. It would be so great for all kinds of different smoky eyes. The black in this palette is not a stark black. It's not like that super, super, super intensive black. And to be honest with you, that's kind of nice because in all the other palettes that I have, they're usually like a really stark black. Snow is a beautiful, shimmery, icy white color, wonderful pigmentation, wonderful texture. Beige is very similar to my skin tone, and I love this. It's a great like naked type of color. I can just throw that on the lid and call it a day. The other thing I like about it is the texture is phenomenal. It's not super shimmery. It's almost like, it's like a shimmer satin because it's not quite satin. It's really good. Rosé is a beautiful shimmery pale copper. That's what I'd call it. It's like a pale copper or like a warm gold. It is beautiful, so pretty on my eyes. When I first got this palette, like for days and days and days, I wore Rosé, Nectar, and Mocha, and that was like my little trifecta right there. I was like, oh yeah, it's so good. Mocha is a delicious, delicious warm bronze brown, really, really beautiful color. Chrome is a brown tinted taupe gray. It's lovely, lovely. I'm wearing it like right here on my lid today. Love this color, really fantastic. If you're a fan of like MAC satin taupe or any of those kinds of colors, you'll really, really like this one. Silver is kind of your basic silver, but it's got a great texture, good pigmentation. Jade is a gorgeous deep olive color. It's less shimmery than the other colors have been so far in this palette. And Cocoa is also less shimmery, and it's like a very deep chocolate brown with a little bit of like golden shimmer running through it. The colors in this palette are just phenomenal. Immediately your eye is drawn to all kinds of different colors. You can come up with so many different, you know, like I said, a warm color, like I said, the first days that I had it, I was like Rosé, Mocha, Nectar, little trifecta. I also sometimes would add in Plum, so it's easy to go like daytime, oh let's bump it up to nighttime with a little bit of Plum. Or I am gonna have a tutorial coming up in a couple of days where I do like a lighter, taupey, smoky eye, like daytime appropriate kind of thing. And then, sorry, I was just checking a text from my husband. And then the following day I'm going to have a look that is a bumped up version of it, which is what you see here, which is, you know, obviously it's got like blue, it's more smoky, there's lashes, there's things like that. So it's, oh, something must be important. I think that's pretty much it. I think I've covered everything. I've talked about the shades, I've talked about the quality of the eyeshadows, which is phenomenal. I've talked about the shade selection, which is amazing. Gorgeous palette. It's definitely one that you can use by itself. It's one that I personally am not going to need to bring something else. I love this palette. I think it's fantastic. I really, really recommend it. And I think it's going to be one that's really popular because you do have that mix of like the fun colors that you can do something kind of a little more interesting with, but you have this, I mean, if you just look at it like half and half, this on its own is a beautiful neutral palette. And then this is like kind of like adding the fun in. So love this palette, definitely recommend it. Now I think I've pretty much covered everything. Quality of the eyeshadows is amazing, the texture is amazing, the price point is $42, you get 16 eyeshadows. The amount of eyeshadow you get is 8.8 grams altogether, so they are mini size eyeshadows, so if you love a color you're gonna rip through it fast. Like I'm gonna rip through Nectar really fast. So if you have a burning question about this palette that you feel like I haven't answered, go ahead and leave that in the comment section down below and I'll do my best to answer those questions as they come. Also, feel free to answer each other's questions. I always get excited when you guys kind of comment back to each other. It kind of makes it more like a little community here on the YouTube comment section. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe, especially give me a thumbs up. Really helps me out. I love you guys, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Remember to just be yourself. See you, bye.